Have you ever met one of those people who just can't be stopped? It's like they're unstoppable.
Yeah, I have.
Me too.
What's their mystique?
Nothing stops these people.
Don't stop.
Welcome to Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso. You're about to meet some of the most amazing people.
Stop. Don't stop.
They've accomplished their goals despite insurmountable odds. They beat adversity, physical hardship, and traumatic events, and emerged triumphantly. They're people just like you and me, and they're winners. Are you unstoppable? Here's Frankie to show you how.
Hello there, and welcome to Mission Unstoppable Radio. I have two amazing guests on today who are going to take us on a mission, a humanitarian mission, really, around the world. We have here Jessica Van Theil, and we have Shivani Singh. And Jessica and Shivani met in a very unusual way, and I'll have them talk about that in a little bit. But the work that they're doing, they both lived around the world. Jessica's lived in Canada, United Arab Emirates, France, South Africa. In fact, she lives in France right now. Shivani has traveled throughout the world. She's lived in 5 countries. And traveling since she was 17 years old, she actually speaks, you speak 5 languages, and you're proficient in 3, writing 3 languages, which is pretty absolutely amazing. So welcome, girls, to Mission Unstoppable. We'll talk about a lot more. Well, I'll let you talk about it instead. I don't need to talk about it. Hello, how are you both?
Hi, Frankie. Thank you so much for having us. This is Jessica on right now. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's definitely my pleasure for you guys to be here. Why don't you tell us how you met? And we'll talk about the organization that you both founded, which is called Pathfinder. And let's start there.
Okay, great. So I'll just, I guess, take the lead on that. Shivani and I met in Mauritius in 2012 when I was working with the United Nations, with the UNDP, the development program. And I was out there doing work, and Shivani was on holiday. And we met through a mutual friend who happened to be her sort of mentor and my boss at the time, who was the country program coordinator and sort of the ambassador to the UN Mauritius at the time, who we're still in touch with. And so she kind of connected us, and we immediately had this chemistry and found that we had so much in common, even though we're worlds apart. And you'll see later that we end up thinking in very different ways, but what drives us, this sort of humanitarian aspect and wanting to do good, was really, really profound. And so we kept this sort of relationship going for the past, I guess, 4 years, or now it's been 4 years. And we had said right then and there, in sunny Mauritius on this beautiful island, we were just saying that there was this deep sort of void in the development industry, and we thought that we could try and right that wrong and fill that gap, and in sort of starting a consultancy, a social enterprise, which we later did, Pathfinder, and we kept that alive for the past 3 years, talked about it on and off, and developed our friendship too, and then eventually last year Shivani approached me. She was actually working on Wall Street. Very different job, but she had always done sort of lots of volunteering, and she'll get into that. But she always had a humanitarian aspect, and I had done lots of work. As you said, I've lived in a lot of countries and mostly in sort of a development or international relations context. And she approached me and she said, enough's enough. Let's do this. If we don't do this now, we're never going to do it. And she was based in New York at the time, and I was in France and still am in France, and I happened to be 8.5 months pregnant. And she said to me, should we do this? And I said, you know what? It's now or never. Let's give it a go. Why not? And that's kind of how Pathfinder started. And since then, it's been almost a year. We really started things, launched things in sort of March, April 2015. And since then, it's been full stream ahead. Like we've been going just wild with lots of stuff going on, but really headed towards good things, we think. And we put a lot of our energy and time into it, and we're pretty proud of where we are today. So that's our story in a nutshell. That's
your story in a nutshell.
Yeah, in a long nutshell. Yeah.
You were 10 years on Wall Street, I think. And I read something about MBA Without Borders. What's that?
Shivani?
Are you still with us, Shivani?
Hi. Yes.
Hi. Did you hear us? Did you hear me?
Hello.
Hello. Did you hear my question?
Yes, I can. It's just that I'm getting something. No, something about MBAs Without Borders.
Yes. What is that? Tell me what that is. I've never heard of that before.
Oh yeah, they're this fantastic organization. They're part of a greater organization called Pixera Global out of Washington D.C. And basically they are some of the oldest operational social entrepreneurs in the field. They started way back when the idea of doing good in the world became sort of important to the American government, and they've sort of evolved from there. So they come with a lot of expertise. I've been to their office. There's some really, really cool people working there, and they were running this program where basically they just collect people from various sort of business capacity related fields, and they deploy, say about 5-6 people or fewer, every year to various development locations where then we go and work with local social entrepreneurs and help them sort of establish their business from a management perspective. And, so basically what we have is, we've been fortunate enough to have had the education and the training and the skill set and the experience, and all of which develops into a nice package that helps us out. And these people have great ideas and great ambitions, and they're running these businesses, but they haven't had the good fortune that we have. And so the idea is that, we sort of go there and work with them as teams and help them build these really cool ideas up into properly functional little social enterprises. So that's what the MBAs Without Borders program is with Pixera Global in DC.
Very cool. And Pathfinders is a social enterprise, and your mission is to impact global development by developing innovative solutions and enabling local social entrepreneurs and promoting academia and influencing policy. So what you're doing is you're going to, let's say, a place that is maybe, let's say, a group of women in India who have a great idea for business but don't have the money, and you're going to find them the money and create the policy in their town for sustainability. Is that kind of how you work?
Yes, almost. It's almost right there. It's basically what we do is, say you have this group of women in India and they have a great idea and they would like to be self-sustaining, because as we know, women in rural India are often, most often actually, not quite that sustaining. And so should they like to run a local social enterprise or a local business, what we would do is we would come in, we would bring in folks from say the States or Canada or somewhere in Europe or even somewhere in India, where someone is sitting there saying that, look, I have this money and I would like to make sure that it ends up generating an income in partnership with people who would do best to be enabled. And so that's when we come in. We'll bring in the resources. So we're connecting these resources to the requirements, and then we're doing the consulting to where, all right, let's get started. We've got the team going. We've got the money. Let's start deploying our plan. We'll help them with management and training and, certainly hiring people and how to build up to scale and all of that. And then hopefully with a collection of successes, we are in a situation where we can impact first, obviously, local policy, but over time, more and more, with more and more success, we should be able to impact higher policy, because without policy, we'll always be limited in our reach. Right.
So as far as structure goes, the people that you accept or the people that you want to help, how would you determine that? Do you have like your own set of parameters of people that you would accept?
Yeah, Shivani, do you want me to? I'll take this one. I think.
Yeah, go ahead, Jessica.
Yeah, so basically, Shivani and I, when looking at projects, and that we, first of all, there are two ways that we go about it. So we've got what we call our pilot projects, which are more than, currently we've sort of assigned with 3 different projects, and I can go over them afterwards. But
sure.
The way we've selected, what we've selected have been projects that are really dear to our heart. Causes that we're ourselves passionate about, and we feel that they're our own sort of projects, our own organizations. Obviously, we don't step in terms of the management, in terms of the sort of helping to restructure or helping with that sort of that business aspect. We come in as experts in terms of, helping them out, but we definitely know that these are people on the ground that know their stuff best. So we help direct them, but that said, we take on projects that we're, near and dear to, because we want to make sure that we sort of give that sort of energy and passion that they deserve. So most of the causes that we take on, a big priority, I would say, would be animal welfare, human rights, which with a big focus on women's rights, and children's education. We've expanded now into other realms as well. We obviously don't say no to anybody that approaches us. That said, those are sort of projects that are near and dear to our heart based on our past experiences and where we've worked and things like that. But so our current 3 projects are again touching on those sort of issues. One is World Pathfinder Children's Fund, which is based in Nepal. It's a Canadian corporation, and they help assist children with educational subsidies in Nepalese villages all around I think I'm pronouncing it right, the Pokhara Valley, right? And so they've been set up for a few years, and they approached us. It was actually a contact. So a lot of the time it's people that know us already or people that we've worked with that sort of said, hey, can you help us out? So they're one of our projects, and they're awesome.
Jessica, we're going to go to break in just a minute. We're going to go to break. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, we're going to go to break in just a second, but it was called, the project was World Pathfinder Children's Fund. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere, because Jessica and Shivani are with me, and they're going to be here for another 45 minutes. Let's stick around. Here we go.
Thanks.
Thanks, girls.
Don't stop.
That's right, don't stop listening. Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso will continue right after these messages.
Don't stop.
It's words you never heard.
Well, the U.S. sure has experienced torrential thunderstorms, lightning, and flooding recently. Thunderstorms, otherwise known as cockeyed bobs, can be pretty scary. What's the fear of thunder and lightning called? Astrophobia. Years ago, Roy Sullivan, a Virginia Park ranger, was struck by lightning 7 different times and lived to tell about it. Lightning struck his head through his hat, set his hair on fire, and burned his eyebrows off. The current from the lightning traveled through both legs and blew his shoes off. The final lightning bolt hit him while fishing, and he was hospitalized for chest and stomach burns. Believe it or not, Roy Sullivan managed to recover from 7 lightning strikes, but later died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound as a result of loneliness, otherwise known as azygophrenia.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
February is Heart Awareness Month, with heart disease being the #1 killer of Americans. Approximately 632,000 Americans die each year, which means 1 out of every 4 disease-related deaths in the U.S. are attributed to heart disease. According to the American Heart Association, approximately 785,000 Americans have their first heart attack each year, with an additional 470,000 experiencing a recurrent heart attack. That equals a staggering 1,255,000 Americans each year falling prey to a heart attack. According to the CDC, approximately 4 out of every 10 people who have heart disease are also inactive. It's time to get moving. For the Fitness Minute, I'm Annette Hammond.
Hello there, and we are back. Just as I promised, I'm your host, Frankie Picasso. The show is Mission Unstoppable, and I am here with Jessica Van Theil and Shivani Singh. Welcome back, girls. We were just talking about the first of your 3 projects, which was the World Pathfinder Children's Fund. Did you finish talking about it? I'm not sure if you did or not.
That was it. So it was just finishing up with that one. So as we said, they are subsidizing children's education in Nepal. And then the second one touches on...
Wait. You're not done with that yet. Because
do you want to keep...
the 2, because you start with 2 children, and the children who are educated promise at the end of their education to sponsor 2 more children.
That's right.
And so on and so on. So it's exponential growth.
Yes, and that's what's awesome about them too, is that they've been set up for a few years, and it's working quite well. And they've reached out to us because obviously they're a scalable and sustainable project, but they just want to scale and make themselves obviously even bigger. And our goal with them is to eventually be able to affect not only just the region but also villages all around Nepal. And so that's it. Like you said it perfectly. It's a sort of a pay it forward thing. After these kids are done their schooling, then the whole point is that they sort of sign on. There's no contract or anything, but they sort of have a verbal agreement that they will then sort of sponsor 2 other kids, and so on and so forth. So that it really has a lot of potential to reach a very high scale and even national level. So we're really excited about that. And like we said, that's been in effect for a few years. And then we're going on to The Drunken Chemist, which is these 2 sisters that were, they're scientists and chemists by trade. They're actually based in the U.S. and they've been making...
Are they Americans?
They're American. Shivani is actually a contact of Shivani. Shivani knows them well. So again, World Pathfinder Children's Fund was sort of a friend of mine that reached out, or someone that I had worked with in the past, and we always said we should sort of collaborate, and he reached out. And then the Drunken Chemist were contacts of Shivani's, and they're based in the U.S., and they're doing quite well for themselves in the U.S. They have a business where they make soap formulae with locally sourced, responsible ingredients that are environmentally friendly and ethically tested. So they're awesome. Everything that they're doing, again, it's called The Drunken Chemist. Everything they're doing is working really well in the U.S., but they contacted us because they want to expand to India and dedicate their work to creating like real social impact.
Nice.
And so that's, awesome. These are the kind of projects that we find super compelling and super, we're really passionate about it because it covers so many things. Not only is it really focusing on this sanitation issue in India, where it really would be promoting proper sanitation, but it would also, their soaps don't require a lot of, I'm not a scientist, but from what we know about the project and everything, they don't require a lot of water. So this is, as to clean water and everything is an issue in India. And so this would cover something. And also, not to mention the bigger issue of really having work or creating jobs for women, rural women in India. And so we're talking about social impact on 3 different levels: on an environmental level, on a women and women's rights level, and then also on this other sort of level of sanitation and promoting that kind of thing. So this project, we hope they've got already their business run in, as I was saying, in the U.S., but with a little bit of seed capital and money from our end and finding investment, then we can really deploy on this project in India. And so that's something that's really dear to our hearts because it touches on so many bases.
Am I allowed to ask what kind of money they would need?
Yeah, absolutely. This kind of project, we can get into the nitty gritties of that, sure. But I think in terms of all the projects require a different kind of level of funding from the get-go, only because some of them are already sort of been working for a few years, right. And some of them are in the conception phase, which is, the Drunken Chemist, although they already have a business plan and everything outlined, and we know that it works really well in the U.S., it's just in the conception phase. We've just been talking to people in India, and we've just been sort of talking with the sisters. But I think, Shivani, for Drunken Chemist, we had put something like 100,000. Was that the?
Yeah. Frankly, the way it works is that it, again, depends on like she said, it depends on the economy and depends on how far along they are in the process. And yes, the sisters are already a very well functioning business, and so that certainly helps. What's really cool is actually, and Jess touched upon it for a second, they're back in their labs right now trying to come up with a formula for soap that does not require clean water, which is kind of, which is an essential in the formula for soap. And that would be just absolutely amazing because, clean water is such an issue. And
maybe they could develop soap that cleans the water. At the same time. That'd be good.
There are some of those pills. There's stuff like that out there.
Are they like a Lush? Or is this company like Lush, like the scents and everything?
Well, in the sense that Yeah, in the sense that they are it's the woman I know. She's fantastic. She used to I used to work for her boss. He's very senior in the Wall Street area, and he was one of my favorite bosses actually. He's a very tough guy but very smart, and I could actually I worked really well with that straight up sort of routine. And so when I left, I was catching up with everyone, saying hello. And so when I was talking about my project, that's when he said, "Oh, you should speak with my wife. She would love this sort of thing. She's always saying how, it's so great that we can do this, but I really want to have a social impact of some sort. I'm sure I can take this somewhere it's going to be of use." So we spoke with her, and it just sort of developed from there. But yeah, so they're back in the labs making a formula that's better suited for India and the ingredients that are readily available in any sort of part of India, but also, or at least in the north of India. And yeah, so in order to deploy that in like rural North India, I think we could easily set off with maybe $150,000 would sustain the business for long enough to actually, to get things going.
So would these ladies, would they have would they each be individually have their own business? Would they do it together in a business? Would they be trying to sell this product back?
What they want to do is that they want to set up a franchise. So they want to set up like this. It's going to have its own name. So obviously they're called the Drunken Chemist.
Right.
They don't intend to start in India with the term the Drunken Chemist. It's probably not going to
with their liquor-based soaps.
Exactly. Not to fly with.
So okay. What is their dream though? You go to rural India and you hire some women, or these women say, okay, we're going to give you money. You're going to start your own business. Who are they going to sell to? Who's got money that they can?
So what we do is essentially we help them set up a lab locally in whatever community they're in, and then you get a few of the women in that community together, and they're the wives of farmers or laborers,
right?
And so you sort of get them together, and we can be like, look, when the kids are away at school, this is what you do. This is the lab. This is what we do. We make the product. We got to figure out how to package the product. And then there are a lot of places in India. Obviously, these would have to be like the nicer places where they can get a proper return on their investment.
Right.
But
like hotels or something.
Exactly. Hotels is one, but you've got like the Good Earth, the Sephora in India, stuff like that. You sell to stores where you sort of get the image out and the voice out, and that sort of catches. And then there's obviously no reason it can't sell in the States.
So you're not expecting them to export back here?
No.
Oh, well, it would be nice if we could figure that out, though.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you could. Could.
Yeah. I mean,
And the whole thing is, they're already successful and set up in the States. And it's so funny that you said Lush, because that's what I say sometimes to describe it. I'm like, well, you guys know Lush. It's kind of similar, but I think, I don't know Lush's, business model and everything. But the awesome thing about the Drunken Chemist is it's just completely environmentally friendly and eco-friendly. And it's just, they have the potential, I think, the reason why this project has a lot of potential for investors is, from an investment point of view, there could be a big return on it. And so that's something that I should just mention is that with Pathfinder, with all of the projects that we take on, we have some others that are really near and dear to our heart, but we don't take them on as projects only because they're not sustainable or scalable, because some of them really require funding. So they require regular charity and things like that. We only work with people that could have a potential for solid, sustainability. So often there is money to be made. These are for-profit organizations, and we don't hide it. Because we think that people should be rewarded for their work, and
absolutely,
and in a transparent way. And obviously, the World Pathfinder Children's Fund, if an investor is investing in that, they're investing more in social impact. So there's less of a sort of a tangible investment, but whereas the Drunken Chemist, you can really see there would be a return on investment because they're selling a product, right? And while doing good, right? While creating jobs for women.
So as an investor, I could expect a dividend at some point?
Yes,
Is that what you're saying?
You could absolutely, yes, you would expect a return on your investment.
I see.
And it would be different for different projects, or you
Sure.
could invest in Pathfinder itself, and and that would be a sort of minimized risk and minimized. It would be a more stable investment.
Right, right. I love the idea. And, women in developing countries, they say that, a lot of women raise families on $1 a day. I mean, they're so good at it. They're good at feeding and caring for, like, with nothing. But why should they have to? We don't want them to do that.
Well, and that's
we
the
want
thing,
them
right? Like,
why struggle?
Yeah,
it's not necessary.
That's the whole point. Is like there's no reason to bring in charity. If you just enable folks, they're more than happy. Much prefer actually taking care of themselves and their own families, without the idea of we are such magnanimous people. We have come to you with our money. None of that, right?
Right.
If you enable them, they are happy to do this by themselves.
Yeah, and a lot of them have so much talent. They just need help getting started.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Local solutions are often the best.
Right. And Lush does have a program, by the way, Jessica. They have a program on a number of their stuff, like their soaps or their shampoos or whatever, that if you buy the certain one that they sell, money goes to pay for, like, shoes or whatever it is. I don't know what everything goes to, but they do have that too. So if Drunken Chemist wanted to do something like that in the U.S., certain of their products, the money could go to help fund that too. Indian.
Exactly. That's awesome.
I'm sorry, I lost you there.
Oh,
I was saying that would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be great.
And I think Shivani's just currently in India at the moment, and she'll maybe tell you her story afterwards, how she's sort of she's a nomad and sort of all over the place at the moment between projects and clients and stuff. But at the moment, I mean, she can tell you firsthand, you see it all the time, Shivani, with women there. You're saying, it's just better to enable them, because I think at the end of the day, there's also a certain level of respect as well if they're starting to you bring money back into the home and everything.
That's right. Jessica, I got to stop you. We're going to go to a break. Jessica and Shivani will be right back. I'm your host, Frankie Picasso. You're listening to Mission Unstoppable Radio. Do not go anywhere. We want you to be here when we get back.
Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso will continue right after these messages.
Stop.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
To be successful at anything, you need to be committed. Being committed to losing weight and exercising daily works the same way. According to a survey conducted by USA Today, the majority of Americans do not exercise on a regular basis. They found that only 5% of respondents reported vigorous physical activities, including using cardiovascular exercise equipment and running. It has also been reported that 50% of all people who begin a training program drop out within a year. Dedication and commitment is what is needed. The key to reaching and maintaining physical fitness is to find activities that are exciting, challenging, and satisfying. Become committed and dedicated to exercising daily and see your life and health change in a favorable direction. For the Fitness Minute, I'm Annette Hammond, keeping you healthy, happy, and fit.
Is there more living for you to do? Yes. Start living inspired. Be here for Living Inspired with Tricia Goyer. Thursday afternoons at 4, 3 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Tricia will dig deep into topics that matter most to women, inspiring women to make a change in their own lives and to make a difference in the world, and maybe even deep within their own hearts. Tricia is a wife, mom, speaker, family expert, and author of 24 books. For more information on Tricia and Living Inspired, go to her website, TriciaGoyer.com. That's TriciaGoyer.com. Tricia's vision is to be the voice of hope and possibility for women of all ages. Her intention is to serve ordinary women by encouraging extraordinary things with God's help. Tricia expresses real life, real hope for real women. Is there more living for you to do? Yes. Start living inspired. Living Inspired with Tricia Goyer. Thursday afternoons at 4, 3 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
And we're back. We've got Shivani and we have Jessica, and we're talking to the founders of Pathfinder. And they had the first project that we spoke about was the World Education with the children in Nepal. We spoke about the Drunken Chemist. And now their third project that they're working on is the AgriCycle in Namibia. And tell us about that. Who wants to talk about that?
I can jump in on that. Jessica here. So AgriCycle Namibia, they're pretty awesome, and they're a project that actually came to us, sought out Pathfinder, and I think they contacted us originally. I don't know if it was through our website or through Twitter, but it was something that they just sort of came to us and said, it was Twitter, right? And they said to us, this is what we're doing, sent a little bit of background information, and we followed up with a few calls, and really immediately I think we fell in love with this project. So what they do is they provide solutions to environmental issues faced by Namibian agriculture and they say aquaculture sectors. So really think farming. And so they develop locally sourced, sustainable, and scalable solutions to convert organic waste into potent protein. So it's used as fodder, and this is to feed their animals. Okay, and so currently, on a national level, Namibia has to import, I think it's 100% of this fodder. And so this has become a real issue because obviously it's super expensive. It's not sustainable. It's really been a huge issue. And so what they do is they've got, like I said, they're also killing two birds with one stone. They found the solution, but they've also had this bug. I don't know what the name of the bug is. But it's an insect that actually they have an abundance over there. And so they're able to turn that into fodder. And so that sort of, eliminates that abundance or that sort of pest, I guess, the insect. And then they've created this solution that they can just internally sort of feed themselves or feed their livestock. And then and everything is just really done in a very eco-friendly, environmentally friendly way. And these
let me stop you there, Jessica. So there's a bug that they kill. That's the protein in the...
No, the science of it.
An insect, yeah. Shivani knows the science better than I do. Go ahead.
Okay, Shivani, go. Tell me how it works.
Shivani?
I think she's on a delay or something.
Okay, so basically what they're doing is that I think I might be a little bit on a delay. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yep.
Okay, great. So what they're doing is they're harvesting these flies, and the larva of these flies is very high in protein content, and it's a locally found fly. It's not something that they have to, they're just, it's in a small lab currently. They're harvesting the fly, and they use the protein, the larva, to feed or to create fodder, and it's also used in agriculture.
Okay.
So it's, and then the fly itself feeds on organic waste. So it's like this glorious cycle of, just using waste to create protein that then feeds the fodder, and then there's waste again. So it's amazing. It's all completely, self-serving and
so the waste that we're talking about, that's not just vegetable waste.
No.
Is it human waste?
Actually, all organic waste.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think in part of, it can be animal waste. So it can be in terms of,
manure.
Manure and things like that. Yeah. So
this manure is being turned into a protein that is fed back to the animals.
The insect feeds off the manure, and then the insect
larvae.
Yeah, and there's a term for the shell of the insect, but basically if you crush down the insect, it becomes it's a sort of really, really high protein, and so that's fed to the animals, right?
Okay. Yeah. No, I get it. No, my son just came back from Indonesia, and he brought that coffee. The coffee that's the poop from an animal that's there that's highly prized. I can't remember what it's called, but I don't understand where people come up with that. But it's interesting.
I know, and it's incredible. I mean, these guys they're three young farmers. Two of them, one of them is really into the science of it all. And they've got this project that's sort of they're actually powering through. They're talking with people on the national level and the Ministry of Agriculture over there and stuff. But they just basically, they have their business model in place, and they've also, like Shivani was saying, in sort of the pilot phase where they're I think they're going through a lot of the testing and stuff, but it has been proven that it works. They just need to really scale it, and to do that, they need the money. So that's why they contacted us to get, investors involved. They have been talking to people. Yeah, they've been talking to people over there, but obviously investment, really in terms of, getting the proper lingo down and everything. And also in terms of timing, I think these are farmers that are dealing with their stuff. They're scientists, so on a daily basis, they really need to focus on that. And so what we do is we kind of relieve that stress of finding investment, and we do it for them. And that's really what we want to do. We want these guys, all of our projects, to focus on what they're good at and to focus on, and keep passionate and keep that up so that we can focus on what we do best, and that's finding investment for these requirements.
So, I guess there's a bunch of farmers, or is farming the industry in Namibia, and that they, how will this impact the rest of the country, let's say?
Yeah, so I think on a national level, what could happen, what they hope to do, because they're the only ones doing this at the moment, and so that's why it's really important to sort of strike while the iron's hot, kind of thing. I think that they've got such good potential, and that's why we sort of fell in love with the project, because obviously we don't know a lot about that industry, but we do think that there's enormous potential and huge scale. So yeah, that's what they're trying to do, is really on a national level talk to. Right now they're focusing on one region in the north of Namibia because of contacts that they have there. But eventually they'd like to scale it to the entire country, where they're selling this fodder,
okay,
specifically to farmers, so that the farmers don't have to import from other countries.
Right.
That's the overall objective. Yeah.
Okay. Farming's hard enough, but
right.
Yeah, it's just hard enough, man. It's a tough life. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that the website for these ladies is Pathfinder SOCENT. So Pathfinder and then SOCENT.com. And you can go there. And let's talk about SOCENT. What's SOCENT?
Go ahead, Shivani. This is your baby.
So I know Jess says SOCENT. I say SOCENT. It's really weird, but really it's the hashtag for social enterprise. So SOCENT is the hashtag, and that's the hashtag that everyone sort of uses on Twitter. Well, it's one of the main hashtags that everyone uses on Twitter and Facebook and other social media to speak about social enterprise.
Okay, cool. So for people who are listening and don't know what social enterprise is, what's your definition of it?
Sure. So a social enterprise really is basically, it's pretty straightforward. It's an enterprise and it has to have a social impact. Now, the thing that people get most confused about is the entire concept of generating a profit while doing good.
Right.
That skips people. So right now, when we talk about a social enterprise, we're thinking of nonprofits or NGOs, based on where you're coming from. They have different names, obviously, but not-for-profits, NGOs. These are the social enterprises that people are familiar with because, they're social in nature and they're enterprises. But really, you can have an organization like I was just talking with you about, Tom's, where Tom's have Blake, the guy who started Tom's, he started a social enterprise because he wanted to make an impact, but he also wanted to run an entirely sustainable business, and that business further sustains their enterprise, which makes bigger impact. So you see, there's no need to everyone live in poverty to make an impact. You can come up with creative financial and risk models to sort of create social impact and profit all at once.
And I know that to that end, there's been, talk about B corporations, and I was just on a site called Founder Dating, and these folks, I just put it out there because I love the idea of social impact, and I said, are there any B corporations here, and if so, what's your social impact space? What are you doing? And everybody came on and said, we really wanted to do that, but it was just too prohibitive. We had to do too much fundraising or this or that. And I go, okay, but so what? Even if you didn't incorporate as a B, where's your social impact? Just because you have an idea, doesn't mean you still can't do it, even if you're, not certified, whatever. But nobody talked about that. They just talked about the difficulty of the certification.
Yeah, with these guys who want to have a social impact but don't register as Bs. A lot of the times what happens is that the B Corporation folks and other organizations like that require you, and rightfully so, to check a bunch of boxes that ensure that you are actually having a social impact and that you're thinking through your entire model and you're going to do a good job of it and you're doing exactly what you intend to. And they sort of make you think the right stuff. And that, obviously people will find tedious when they're already entrepreneurs. Do we need the extra bit? And I guess it's a question of priority, really.
But it's like I used to work in quality, for the government, and so quality has the same check boxes. If you want to become a quality organization, you got to do the assessment, you got to do all this stuff. Same thing, really. You don't have to become incorporated as a B to be B certified. I mean, there's a difference, right? So you could just kind of do your assessment and go, I'm going to have social impact, and this is where we're going to do it, and this is where the money is going to come from. When we sell this, we're going to give a pair of shoes away. There's another company that was on the show. They sell panties, and then they give panties to women's shelters, because that's the number one thing that you can't. It has to be brand new, and nobody donates panties. They forget. Yeah, absolutely. But a lot of these women who are running from their lives and running from abusive situations, they need underwear. They need it, and it makes them feel secure. And so that's a really great idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the simplest thing. It really is. And it's really, it's just a matter of a little creativity.
Yeah.
And commitment.
Yeah.
And I think it's the integrity as well. So, I mean, I think when you set out your business model, whatever you're doing and whatever, however big you are, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to what you want to do. And we've always said, and that's what I think Shivani and I, that's why Shivani left a really good job on Wall Street, was that she just said, it's not all about making the money. It's also about making social impact, because we've got this one world, and we've come from such privileged situations that why not give back? We have the capacity to do so. So let's do it. Let's all get together and do it. And that's our whole thing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that whole idea. Well, you are listening to Mission Unstoppable Radio. I am your host, Frankie Picasso. Shivani Singh and Jessica Van Thiel, they're here with us today. Jessica is in France, and Shivani's in India today, and I'm in Canada. How amazing is that we all get to converse? And wherever you are listening in the world, that's where you are. So that's pretty cool, too. We're about to go to a break. Ben is with us. He's my engineer right now. Thank you, Ben. And we will be right back with you, so don't go away, because we want you to hear the rest of the conversation.
That's right. Don't stop listening. Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso will continue right after these messages.
Stop.
It's words you never heard.
Everyone knows you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. But who wants to catch a fly? Flies are quick and repulsive. Flies have 2 wings, while all other insects have 4. And they beat their wings 200 times per second. That's faster than a hummingbird. Flies jump up and backwards when taking off with an average speed of 5 miles per hour. What's the word for that annoying buzzing sound flies make? Fritinancy. Pestologists tell us that flies' favorite color is red. Flies have kinesophobia. That's the fear of movement. So simply hang a plastic bag filled with water to keep the flies away. My only question would be, would a fly without wings be called a what?
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
It's words you never heard.
Treasure hunter Eric Schmidt and his family were diving near Fort Pierce, Florida, when his metal detector went off in about 15 feet of water. What he found was one of 52 gold coins, or doubloons, worth more than $1 million. The coins were from a Spanish ship that sunk during a hurricane 300 years ago. The storm sunk 11 Spanish ships and killed more than 1,000 people. What's another name for the frayed ropes on a sailing ship? Baggy wrinkles. The most valuable coin the Schmidt family uncovered was a tricentennial royal, minted in 1715, worth over $500,000. What's a word to make money any way possible? Como doc enquise.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and Words You Never Heard has been brought to you by the Bariatric Surgery Center of Dallas.
And thank you for sticking around. We are so happy that you did. We're going to talk now a little about the challenges that, these social enterprise entrepreneurs, these ladies have had. But first, I just want to say something. Shivani, you were saying off air that you haven't had a home in 15 years. Like, you are the nomad, the wanderer. And when I was reading your profile, I got such a giggle out of it. And I'm going to say this because it was kind of like an oxymoron. She comes from a humble background and left home for boarding school.
Yeah, that's funny up there, isn't it? Like, humble backgrounds don't go to boarding schools.
Yeah. That was kind of fun. So tell us, how come you don't have a home? Where are you traveling? What are you doing? Why is you the nomad?
It's really, I mean, honestly, we grew up around the world, so that was all great. And then when I was right after this boarding school, I moved to Texas, where I was in college.
Oh, wow.
Where I was college by myself. Like, I had 3 jobs, 3 scholarships. Then, and I finished in 3 years. So obviously, I was not attending many parties.
Right. Yeah, you're girls.
I was
real
focused. I didn't have.
Where'd you go to boarding school? England or?
Oh, no, I went to boarding school in India, actually. We were living in the Middle East at that point, and my parents really wanted that we went to boarding school, or school where women weren't sort of held back in any way.
Right,
and
right.
when we came of age, they just wanted us out of there most of the time. So we did that, and then I moved to the States. I went to college. I started work at Citigroup, and then while I was at Citigroup, I was doing my master's program. So basically, I started the process of immigration in 2001. So I just realized a moment before I was on the radio, actually, that I've been in the process of immigrating for 15 years now. And
immigrating to where? The U.S. or Canada? Or where are you immigrating to?
I was immigrating to the States for about 13 years before I gave up on account of, it's a well-known situation, sort of, it's bogged down system, and it doesn't really work out for everyone, and that's fine.
Right.
I made my peace with it, but I am still in the process of immigrating, and hopefully it'll be Canada next, and so we'll see. But the point is, it's weird. I just realized that.
Wow. And Jessica, you've got not a newborn anymore, but you've got a baby, and you're living in France with your husband.
Yep.
How is that going for you?
Well, very good, actually. We set out originally, my husband and I met he's got a crazy background as well, but we met in Canada and then sort of said, and then I went out to Dubai for a year and then came back and we said, okay, where are we off to next? And we decided on France because he's half French and a rugby player, and said, okay, signed a contract here. And so we all came over. Well, it was the 2 of us at that time, came over for one rugby season. And 6 years later, we were still here in Cognac, France, which is near Bordeaux. And it's a beautiful little city, and it's just absolutely picturesque, beautiful, really good quality of life and everything. And so we sort of set out, like I said, just for an initial a year about, and then 6 years later, bought a house, got married here, and then had a baby not long ago. And so it's great. But obviously there's just nothing at all in our industry, here. And so that actually turned out really well because I was forced to take contracts or take work outside of in sort of other areas or other regions in the world. So that's why I sort of had a contract in South Africa working with an NGO, women's rights NGO, and then working with the UN in Mauritius. And then I was based in Brussels for a while. So always using France as my base. But it really pushed me to sort of do these great and really interesting contracts that had I been in a city with a lot of job opportunities, I think I probably would have stuck to that city. Do you know what I mean? So
I know exactly what you mean. And people listening are thinking, wow, you girls are like, how exciting a life do you live? You travel, you go to all these different cities, you speak all these languages. Like, what an exciting life. And you're young, like you've got your whole lives ahead of you to do this. And so you've got this Pathfinder and, you're hoping to get more projects, obviously. And what about investors? Yeah. Where are the investors coming from? How do you find them?
So our investors, frankly, would primarily be this growing class of investors called impact investors. These guys, like us, are looking for solutions that have a sort of, profit plus, well, not just monetary profit, but also social profit.
Right.
So we have, we're looking for impact investors, but we're also looking for CSR organizations. CSR is corporate social responsibility. And it started out by being, a fashionable thing for big organizations to do, just to sort of attract clients and customers and be known as a responsible organization. But now in certain countries, it's legally required, for instance, in India. So there's a lot of CSR money that is opening up, and there are a lot of people who have a lot of funds, but it's sort of tucked away in these little pockets that are not yet very well connected. And so you find social entrepreneurs working in little voids or bubbles, and it's really exciting to connect with other social entrepreneurs.
Sure.
And so that's really we're kind of looking for impact investors, CSR organizations, or even just foundations who are looking to invest rather than donate. The idea is to develop sustainable systems here.
Right. And what are the other challenges that you're having?
Well,
I want one of those CSR people too. I want to contact me.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because the CSR folks, if they could find us and if we could find them, I think that would be ideal because, you see, there are these like sort of HR offshoot organizations that are being run in like, say, banks or products or other services. And, people who have historically no experience or interest even in working in sort of social impact spaces. And so we are the exact kind of people they would be looking for to deploy their funds responsibly, you see.
Right.
And so that's the big challenge, is to find the right people at the right time. And so far we've been focusing on impact investors, but because it's Jess and me doing everything ourselves, so next I think up is going to be CSR as soon as we get a moment to.
So
we just keep on
utilize like meetups and things like that. Could you utilize those spaces to find people?
Yeah. The thing about these organizations is that they don't really, like I said, it's like a developing field. It's becoming faster in growth now, but historically it isn't that big. So with the relative growth of it, the sort of groupings and networks are also growing. So right now you have the SOCAP, which is a big event that happens every year in California, but that's very, very expensive. And then on the other hand, you have what I went to, the Impact Hub scenario by the SOCAP folks in New York City, which was really cool because it's accessible. It's like $10 a day to hang out all day and sort of talk to other experts who want to enable others, and, speeches and conversations. So they're building all of these sort of networks and groups, but they don't really quite hang out in meetups just yet. That's the challenge.
Right. Yeah. So it is challenging to find them. What kind of project do you hope to do next? Like, do you have like your ideal? Oh my God, I hope somebody contacts us and we do this.
I've been telling Jess. I wonder what Jess would say for this, but I think for me, I've been wanting to do this. You'd have to ask her. Actually, that's a great question. I haven't asked her.
I know what Shivani's going to say.
Okay, well, tell us. We want to know what Shivani's going to say.
I would very much like to say that I would like very, very much to start conversations around building some really, really impactful work with refugees. There's just so many millions of people who are sort of displaced and disturbed at the moment that, we're talking an entire generation of children who are not getting proper schooling and are, traumatized. We're talking doctors who are unable to practice medicine, engineers who are unable to build systems for their own communities. I mean, it is such a waste of talent, and it's just such a shame that they're always just looked at as victims when there's so much potential. And, if we could just get the right people in the conversation and set up some systems to sort of get these guys to build a team, they'll help each other out and we'll all be one big, really cool team.
Yeah, I love that. What about you, Jess?
Well, I was just going to say, I think our generation or the current crisis of the moment is that. It's absolutely that. It's these misplaced people and these, refugees, and obviously the current crisis in Syria. And Shivani and I have we definitely have what is, if they're not daily, they're absolutely weekly debates on how we feel about, how these multinationals are dealing with these crises and crises And we definitely, I think, refugees keeps coming up because that's sort of, that's what's happening now. This is our current, this is our current crisis, and this is what we should be dealing with. That said, there's a whole bunch of other stuff too, but this is something that's so pertinent in the news that I would absolutely say that. I was also going to say that I know something near and dear to Shivani's heart is animal welfare, and that's something that we don't
Me too.
as a specific project, and that's something that will always be an issue, and that'll be something that all humanitarian causes we're obviously interested in. But I know Shivani, my near and dear is women's rights because of my experience in South Africa working with NGOs and working with women in Mauritius as well. But I know Shivani is near and dear to animal welfare, so that I know I'd love projects, but definitely on a more urgent sort of scale, I would say absolutely refugees. And then one thing that we should note is that not only do we take on projects, but we also have, the clients that are regular, the NGOs that are dealing with whatever cause they're dealing with. And that's a whole other broad scale of humanitarian issues as well. And so that's something that we're trying to focus on a lot too, is our consultancy service. So although we're really looking for investors for our projects that are near and dear to us, we also take on these clients that are sort of not our bread and butter, but how we operate on a regular basis is we, consulting with these clients. So we're open to all of that. And then just quickly, because we haven't touched on it, but we've been focusing on, and we've just sort of signed a contract with a major university or we're in the midst of developing a program with a major university in the UK. So we're really trying to develop our academic angle there as well, which is...
Well, we've got 1 minute. We have 1 minute, ladies. Please, if you're listening, Jessica Van Theil, Shivani Singh, go to www.pathfindersocent.com. You can read more about them. You can read about their projects. You can donate. You can call them. You can do whatever you want to do, but get in touch with these girls because what they are doing is absolutely fantastic. And I definitely want to talk to you both about the refugee projects, the animal welfare, women's rights. I want to talk about all of that again. And so I hope that you will come back in the very near future and we can see what we can get going. How cool is that?
That would be so cool.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lisa. You're awesome. And this has been such a great hour, such a fast hour. And thank you so much for everything. Thanks for the opportunity.
Jessica, you're welcome. You're welcome. Same, Shivani. You're welcome.
Thank you
Mission
so much.
Unstoppable Radio. We will see you again next week. Thank you so much. Take care now.
Don't stop.
When the chips were down, they didn't stop. Stories of people who, when the odds were against them, turned defeat into victory. You've been listening to Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso. See you next time, and always remember...
Don't stop.